I went to my cousin's wedding, but accidentally walked into the wrong hotel and the wrong banquet, and right when the bride eloped with someone else and the room froze in awkward silence, I rushed onto the stage and blurted, "If she won't marry you, I will," never expecting the handsome groom to actually say yes on the spot, and even slip a rock-sized diamond ring on my finger, only to be sent to the bridal suite after the ceremony, where I finally realized he wasn't my cousin at all. And there he was, tipsy and hazy-eyed, loosening his tie as he closed in. I stumbled back in a panic and smacked into the locked door. National Day banquet. The bride ran off with someone else. To keep the groom, my distant cousin, from losing face, I went up on stage and said, "If she won't marry you, I will." Only after the wedding ended and I was delivered to the bridal suite did I realize something was off. "Cousin?" The man paused mid-tie pull. "Tisk you into that whole big brother divided by little sister thing?" "Belle, I ran into your long-lost aunt today. Her son's getting married tomorrow, and she invited me. But your younger aunt is also getting married tomorrow, so I can't make both." "Why don't you go for me?" "Which aunt? Your grandaunts, nephews, cousins, uncle's sister?" Forget it. You wouldn't know her even if I explained. But do you remember when you were little and came visiting with me? And you and her son snuck off to collect wild duck eggs. You came back covered in mud and I tanned your hide. I'd been spanked so few times as a kid that her reminder jogged my memory. "Oh, that family. Exactly." My mom nodded quickly. "That little boy who took you to hunt eggs is tomorrow's groom." "I'm still not going. I need to send my younger aunt off. Just send that aunt a red envelope. Will you? A cash gift is so impersonal. And besides, I'll be there for your younger aunt. It's not your problem." "Settled." My mum made the call and got ready to leave. Watching her hurry off, I couldn't shake the feeling something was up. I blocked her path. "Mum, be honest. What's your angle?" "What angle?" Her eyes darted. "If you don't tell me, I'm not going." Fine, I'll talk. Your aunt showed me the groomsmen's photos. Every single one of them is a stunner. Who knows, if you go, you might snag yourself a boyfriend. And once you've got one, a chubby grandbaby won't be far behind." Mum was practically glowing. Figures. But that did it. I stopped refusing. After all, I don't love being nagged about marriage, but I do like handsome men. At dawn the next morning, Mum yanked me out of bed to get my hair and makeup done. The whole production made it feel like I was the one getting married. "Remember to be sweet. Call the groom cousin, okay?" "Got it." I told the cabbie the address. Only when we pulled up did I realize the wedding was at a 5-star hotel. Not only that, my so-called distant cousin had booked out the entire place. Staring at the dessert bar, the towering cake, and the mountain of flowers on stage, I'll be honest, I was floored by the looks. The 500 yuan Mom gave me for the gift suddenly felt cheap. I gritted my teeth, chipped in another 500 of my own, and made it 1,000. Then I found a seat and waited for the meal to start. At 12:08 sharp, the ceremony began. "Please welcome the groom." As the MC finished, the man walked onto the stage. Fine features, sharp lines, a perfectly tailored suit that made him look even taller. Drop-dead gorgeous, nothing like that muddy boy I'd gone egg hunting with. The groomsmen behind him couldn't quite match him, but they were easy on the eyes too. Mom hadn't lied. Right on cue, a text from her popped up. "Don't rush off after the banquet. Your cousin will introduce you to the groomsmen." "Okay." I rubbed my hands in anticipation. "Please welcome the bride." To the wedding march, the bride entered. The bride in her gown glided up the aisle, a real beauty. A perfect match for him, or so I thought. Maybe it was just me. But her smile looked forced. "Bride, do you take the groom to be your lawfully wedded husband?" Before she could finish, someone cut in. "Jessica, you can't marry him." A man charged onto the stage. "You said if I dared to crash the wedding, you'd run away with me. Well, I'm here. Come with me." At the sight of him, the bride covered her face, crying with joy. She reached out to take his hand. Her father shot to his feet. "If you dare walk out, I'll break your legs." The bride looked at her father, then at the man who'd appeared out of nowhere. She clenched her teeth, hiked up her skirt, and bolted with him. We watched their figures vanish from sight. I smacked my thigh in frustration. I don't mean to be shallow, but the guy who barged in was short, pudgy, and bald, polar opposite of my distant cousin. What was the bride thinking? As soon as she ran, her father fainted on the spot and was rushed to the hospital. The bride's relatives, mortified, left in droves. The ones who stayed started whispering. Jessica would rather choose someone that ugly than marry Jason. Maybe there's something wrong with him? Jason was my so-called distant cousin. I think so too. Rich and handsome, and the bride still ran. He must be hiding something. The murmurs swelled. I was getting annoyed. I remembered how, as kids, he'd let me keep all the duck eggs we found. I jumped to my feet. If she won't marry him, I will. My clear voice rang through the hall. All eyes swung to me. To make it convincing, I pinched my thigh hard, let my eyes mist, and looked up at Jason. I've liked you for years. Will you give me a chance? I figured we had an unspoken understanding. Never thought he'd just stare at me in silence, studying me with those deep eyes. The air was getting awkward. I started waggling my eyebrows like crazy. Cousin, I'm helping you out here. Don't just stand there. Acting, you know? Right when my eyelids were about to cramp and I was ready to crawl into a hole, Jason finally spoke. Okay, just one word, but it landed like a gavel. His parents looked stunned in the audience, opened their mouths to object, then said nothing. So I walked up on stage. The ceremony rolled on with me as the bride. After he slid a massive pigeon-egg diamond onto my finger, he took the mic from the MC, looked at me, and said, "Let's make do for now. I'll throw you a bigger wedding later." His voice was low and velvety, his tone solemn, his expression sincere. If he hadn't been my distant cousin, it would have been dangerously swoony. I'd planned to slip away as soon as the feast ended. But before that, Jason's relatives swarmed me, committed to the bit. I kept smiling and chatting, sending the whole crowd into peals of laughter. By the time the socializing was over, I collapsed on the wedding bed. I hadn't been lying there long when Jason came in reeking of liquor. He shed his suit jacket, tugged off his tie, and reached for his shirt buttons. His chiseled collarbones made me swallow. But remembering our distant cousin connection, I intercepted him. "Cousin, what are you doing?" "Cousin?" Jason frowned, puzzled then, as if something clicked. His brows eased. "You into that whole brother-sister kink?" "What? What the hell?" My phone suddenly rang. It was my mum. "You little brat! Where did you go? Your aunt just called and said you never showed up to the wedding." "I did go." "Still lying. I'll deal with you when you get back." She hung up. Hearing the beeping tone, something clicked. I quickly opened our chat history. The hotel name she sent me was Ronghua Banquet Hall. The one I went to today was Ronghua with a different character. One tiny typo. A world of difference. So I'd crashed the wrong wedding? And the man before me wasn't my cousin? Realizing the truth, I wanted to cry. I scrambled off the bed, grabbed my purse, ready to bolt, only to find the door locked from the outside. Jason, still dazed and drunk, was walking toward me. "'Cause no, Jason, calm down." I tried to back away, but my back hit the door. No way out. Jason was already right in front of me. He braced one hand against the door, beside my head. The motion pulled his shirt taut, outlining the muscles beneath the two undone buttons. "You?" He looked down at me, about to say something, when the wave of drunken pain hit him. His voice cut off mid-word, but his gaze never left my face. At this distance, I could feel his breath ghosting against my skin. The scent of alcohol mixed with something masculine and heady. It was dizzying, like being locked in a wine cellar. My heart pounded uncontrollably. "Listen," I stammered. "Today was a misunderstanding. I went to the wrong wedding and thought you were my distant cousin, so I played along to help you out. Do you get what I mean?" Jason's brows furrowed tighter. He said nothing. "So, I'm not actually planning to marry you. Maybe you could have someone unlock the door so I can leave? Before I could finish, maybe annoyed by my chatter, Jason suddenly lowered his head. His lips brushed mine. The world went dead silent. I forgot how to breathe. Heat surged through me, and before I knew it, I'd wrapped my arms around his waist. The firm feel beneath my hands made my mind go blank. We weren't really related, so what's the harm, right? Just as I was about to respond to the kiss, Jason's head lolled to the side onto my shoulder, motionless. A bucket of cold water dumped over me. Seriously? He fell asleep? Right now? Unbelievable. Relief flooded me, mixed with a stab of disappointment. I struggled to drag Jason onto the bed, then went to the door and knocked hard. Hey, someone open up. I need to get out. I yelled a few times before someone finally answered. Don't bother, sis-in-law. A night of passion is worth 1,000 gold. Enjoy your wedding night with my brother. Hee hee. Judging by the voice, it was Jason's sister. And with that, she left. Great, no way I was getting out tonight. With a sigh, I texted Mum that I was staying at my best friend's place. Then I lay down beside the man, fully clothed, and fell asleep. I dreamed of pinning down a gorgeous man and having my way with him. I woke to the sound of my own pervy laughter only to realize I was lying on a solid chest. My hand slipped under a man's pajama top. Wait, so this wasn't a dream? Too intense. I was still reeling when a low, husky voice rumbled above me. Had enough? I snapped back to reality and met Jason's dark eyes. I scrambled off him. My brain spun, searching for an excuse. Jason said calmly, It's fine. We're married now. So, he didn't finish, but I got the message instantly. He meant since we were married, I could do whatever I wanted with him. My heart fluttered wildly, but I shook my head, forcing myself to stay rational. This was all a misunderstanding. I'd only helped out a stranger I thought was my cousin, but to Jason, it was a real marriage. I decided to set things straight. But before I could say a word, Jason got up and headed to the bathroom. I swallowed the explanation and waited. 20 minutes later, the bathroom door opened. When I saw him, my eyes went wide. A towel hung low on his hips, droplets running from his hair down that V-line. You were about to say something just now? Jason asked, drying his hair with a towel. I quickly looked away, cheeks flaming. No, nothing. Bang, bang, bang. Someone knocked on the door. Then came the same teasing voice from last night. Bro, sis-in-law, you guys awake yet? She was here that meant I could finally leave. I jumped up to open the door. As soon as the door opened, a ponytailed girl shoved a bundle of clothes into my hands without opening her eyes. Sis-in-law, I got you some clothes brand new, washed and ironed. Then she slammed the door shut again, like she thought I was naked. But nothing happened between me and Jason. I held the clothes awkwardly, feeling the heat rise to my ears. Go take a shower, Jason said. My face turned crimson. Sure, I hadn't showered last night. But did he have to imply I smelled? Wounded female pride activated. I grabbed the clothes and was about to head for the bathroom when my eyes caught the wedding photo on the wall, Jason and the runaway bride. I sobered instantly. Placing the clothes on the bed, I turned to Jason. We need to talk. I told him everything, how I'd gone to the wrong hotel, mistook him for my cousin, and ended up playing along. When I finished, the room fell into heavy silence. Maybe it was my imagination, but I thought I saw a flicker of disappointment in his dark eyes. So you get what I mean, right? I asked cautiously. Let's eat breakfast first, he said, striding toward the door. After a pause, I followed. Last night, I hadn't paid attention to the place since it was already dark. Now I realized Jason lived in a huge villa. When we came downstairs, his parents were sitting in the living room. They both looked drained, nothing like the radiant couple I'd seen at the wedding. Overnight, they seemed to have aged years. Good morning, Mr. and Mrs. Smith, I greeted politely. Jason's mother forced a smile. Why are you still calling us that? Startled, I glanced at Jason. He said nothing, so I had to adjust. Mum, Dad. The words felt strange, but those two had already been through one heartbreak. They didn't need another. It wasn't my fault entirely, but I had caused this mess. Until Jason cleared things up, I had to keep up the act. Good girl. Their smiles softened, more genuine this time. Mrs. Smith clasped my hand, her tone tender but firm. Now that you're married, you two should live well together. Then they each pulled out an enormous red envelope and handed them to me. I'd never seen such thick envelopes before just by the weight. There had to be tens of thousands inside. Panicking, I looked to Jason. He finally spoke. Take them. So I smiled and said, Thank you, Mom. Thank you, Dad. After breakfast, Jason offered to drive me home to meet my parents. Once we left the villa, I exhaled in relief and handed him the envelopes. These are yours. Keep them, he said. They're from my parents. Their way of showing goodwill. But those are for a daughter-in-law. I can't take them. So, you can't be their daughter-in-law? What? My heart skipped a beat. Did I hear that right? Just then, the car pulled up in front of us. Jason said quietly, Forget it. He took the keys and gestured for me to get in. You don't have to drive me. I can get a cab. It's fine. Get in, he insisted. I climbed in. Where do you live? He asked. I told him my address. The car ride was silent. Sitting in the back seat, I couldn't help glancing at him. From my angle, his sharp profile was pure art. Rich, handsome, if only he were my husband. Sigh. As I silently mourned that fantasy, the car drew closer to my neighborhood, an old apartment complex. When we stopped, I stepped out, only to see Jason do the same. He stood before me, looking serious. Let me properly introduce myself. I'm Jason, 28, stable income, own a house and a car, no bad habits. My engagement to Jessica was arranged by our parents. We met fewer than 5 times. I'd planned to develop feelings after marriage, but since she already loves someone else, that engagement is void. You don't have to worry about me going back to her. Maybe the wedding was a joke to you, but to me, it was a serious decision. I'd like you to reconsider marrying me. Give me an answer within 3 days. He handed me the 2 red envelopes and a business card. Here's my contact info. Call me when you've decided. Then he got in the car and drove off. I stood there, frozen, watching until his car vanished from sight. Dazed and clutching the 2 thick red envelopes, I stumbled home. The moment I stepped through the door, Mum smacked me across the shoulder. You little brat. Be honest, why didn't you show up at your cousin's wedding yesterday? My reflexes kicked in. I ducked just in time to dodge her swat. I did go, but to the wrong wedding, I admitted truthfully. Mum pressed a hand to her forehead, exasperated yet unsurprised, because this kind of thing was so me. Finally, she sighed helplessly. How did I end up with such a clueless daughter? As she scolded, her eyes caught the red envelopes in my hands. What are those? Nothing! I clutched them tight and dashed to my room. After a long shower, I burrowed into bed. Just then, Mom knocked and came in. Belle, your aunt sent me the groomsmen photos your cousin was going to introduce you to. Take a look. She held out her phone. The guy in the picture was clean-cut and handsome. Normally, I'd be all over getting his contact info, but right now my mind was filled with Jason's devastatingly gorgeous face. No ordinary handsome guy could even register. I pulled the blanket over my head. I'm tired. Going to sleep. Hopeless girl! Mom grumbled and left, closing the door behind her. When I woke again, it was already afternoon. A new friend request blinked on my phone. The profile picture was a black and white silhouette. The note read, Hi, this is Jason. Without even thinking, I hit accept. Watching the friend added pop up, my heart started racing for no reason. I checked his moments empty. Then I went back to our chat window and waited. And waited. He never messaged. Sigh. 2 days flew by, and suddenly, It was the third. Jason hadn't reached out once. So quiet I almost thought he'd been joking that day. I sighed again. Mum shot me a glare. Why the long face at dinner? If I didn't know you were single, I'd swear you just got dumped. Can't a single girl feel heartbroken too? Truth be told, without Jason's messages, I did feel like I'd been dumped. Unable to shake off the gloom, I called my best friend. That evening, at a barbecue stall, Julia and I sat across from each other. After clinking our beers, I looked at her and asked cautiously, "Julia, what do you think about me getting married on impulse?" The beer Julia hadn't swallowed sprayed everywhere. Luckily, my years of dodging Mum's smacks had honed my reflexes, or I'd be drenched. Thank God the food hadn't arrived yet. I handed her a napkin. She wiped her mouth and stared at me in disbelief. "Are you insane? Marriage is a lifelong thing. What if the guy's a jerk? But what if he's really handsome?" "How handsome? Handsomer than Eddie Peng?" Julia scoffed. I nodded without hesitation. "Way handsomer than Eddie Peng. Yeah, right. There's no man alive hotter than my idol." At that moment, regret hit me hard. I should have secretly snapped a photo of Jason. When the food arrived, we grilled, drank, and laughed our hearts out. The lively stall suddenly turned noisy. Amid a chorus of catcalls, a girl's tearful voice broke through. "So, Juan, you didn't call me out here to confess. You brought me just to humiliate me in public?" The voice sounded familiar. I froze mid-bite, turned around, and saw Jason's sister, Kristen, crying in front of a cocky guy. He lounged back with a skewer in his mouth, smirking. "What did you expect? You think I'd actually like you? I just wanted to prove someone's into me." "You're disgusting," Kristen choked out and turned to leave, but the shirtless thugs at the table blocked her path. "You came easy, sweetheart. Leaving's not so easy." They moved toward her step by step. Kristen backed away, panic filling her eyes as she looked at Juan, but he didn't even glance at her. When the men got too close, she started to cry helplessly. Damn it. It's 2022, and creeps like this still exist? "Julia, call the cops," I said, grabbing a beer bottle and stepping forward to stand in front of Kristen. "Sis-in-law." Kristen sobbed, relief flooding her face when she saw me. She hid behind me instantly, and my protective instincts flared. Maybe it was the booze, but I felt fearless. I glared at the thugs. "What do you think you're doing? I've already called the police. They'll be here any minute." The word police made them falter and glance at Juan. Seeing him unmoved, one of them puffed up again. "The cops! You think we're scared? By the time they get here, we'll be done anyway." He reached for me. Before his hand even touched, crash! I smashed the beer bottle over his head. Blood streamed down his face. He blinked, touched it, then rolled his eyes, and collapsed. The others exploded. "Bitch! You're asking for it!" One raised his hand to slap me. I had nothing left to fight with and no time to dodge. Just as his hand was about to strike, a pained scream tore out of him. "Jason!" He appeared out of nowhere, kicking the guy hard. His men swarmed in, pinning the rest to the ground and beating the crap out of them. Before the cops arrived, the gang fled in panic. "Bro!" Kristen cried. "It's okay," Jason said, steady and calm. Then his gaze shifted to me. He was about to speak when Julia stepped up. "Wait, she called you bro, which makes her your sister, so that means you're the guy she wants to." I clapped my hand over Kristen's mouth and whispered, "It's him." She whispered back, "He's gorgeous. Belle, you weren't lying." "Bro, if it weren't for my sister-in-law, I'd be..." Kristen was midway through thanking me when Julia leaned close to her. They muttered something, then suddenly both shoved me hard. I stumbled forward right into Jason's arms. Full-on collision. Instinctively, I wrapped my arms around him. Behind me, Kristen's teasing voice rang out. "Bro, you should really thank sis-in-law." She dragged out the word thank. I'll drive you home, Jason said evenly. Kristen waved her hands. No need. The driver and the guards can take me, Julia chimed in. Kristen and I really hit it off. I'll go with her. Okay, thanks, sis. Once I'm home, I'll have the driver take you back. With that, the two got in the car and left, leaving just Jason and me. I was still clinging to him, breathing in his warm, clean scent. Maybe it was the alcohol, but his heat seemed magnified, burning through me, making my cheeks flush and my heart race. The urge I'd been holding back sprouted and bloomed. I rubbed against his chest and whimpered softly. I'm scared. My voice came out sweet and shaky. I felt him stiffen instantly. It took a few breaths before he loosened up again. He patted my head gently. Don't be afraid. I'm here. His calm tone carried quiet strength that soothed me. I nodded in his arms, then suddenly felt my feet leave the ground. Jason scooped me up and carried me to the car. I stayed curled against his chest the whole ride. It wasn't my fault, he just felt too good. I pretended to be scared, but really, I was stealing touches. The drive seemed to fly by, and before long, we arrived at my apartment complex. I feigned sleep as Jason lifted me out of the car. The cool night air brushed my face, and I fluttered my eyes open, pretending to wake. Jason set me down, his long fingers resting on my waist, whether to steady me or because he, too, didn't want to let go. I couldn't tell. He held me close. You're home. Even his voice sounded gentler than usual. My affection for him peaked right then. My face burned, and I needed something cool, so I wrapped my arms around his neck, pressed my cheek to his. His skin was cool, soothing, and I wanted more. His breathing grew heavier. Don't move. No. Dizzy from drink and desire, I deliberately defied him. A second later, he kissed me, hard and possessive. When he finally let go, he murmured, "Go inside." I nodded. As he turned to leave, I grabbed his sleeve. Jason, I've decided. I want to marry you. Such a man, I couldn't let him slip away. Even lying in bed later, I still couldn't calm down. I splashed cold water on my face, but instead of cooling, the heat only rose higher. Every moment replayed vividly in my mind. So embarrassing, I groaned, burying my face under the covers. Lust had completely short-circuited my brain. But on the third and final day of our agreement, I'd made up my mind to marry Jason. That night, I slept better than ever. The first thing I did upon waking was check his moments again. Still empty, but I couldn't stop smiling. Buzz. Buzz. Just then, a message from Jason popped up. His first since we'd added each other. My heart leapt until I read it. I'm going on a business trip for about a week. When I get back, I'll visit your parents and propose. Wait for me. I groaned aloud. Just when I'd gotten a taste of romance, he had to leave for a week. Still, the thought of him coming to meet my parents after he returned made me giddy. While he was away, Jason went back to being distant. No messages, nothing for 2 whole days. The warmth we'd shared faded into silence. On the last day of the National Day holiday, I attended a wedding with my parents. This time, I finally met my real distant cousin, the one I used to hunt duck eggs with as a kid. He was tall and broad, sun-kissed and healthy-looking, like a grown-up version of his younger self. How I ever thought he'd turn into someone like Jason, I'll never know. Beside him, his gentle bride smiled softly. Cousin, you're one lucky guy. Your wife is gorgeous. My cousin's wife blushed shyly, while my cousin gave me a playful glare. You, always such a sweet talker. When we were kids, you talked me into giving you all the duck eggs, and now you're making my wife laugh like that. During dinner, he kept piling food into her bowl, doting on her. Watching them being so sweet together, I felt a pang of envy and couldn't help texting Jason. I miss you. As expected, the message sank into oblivion. No reply. Not wanting to embarrass myself, I quickly unsent it. No sooner had I withdrawn it than Jason replied with a single, I was so mad. I nearly threw my phone. My cousin noticed my mood shift. After serving his wife, he also dropped some food into my bowl. Eat more. You need to put on some weight. Cousin, are you calling me fat? Suddenly, the chicken leg in my bowl didn't seem so appetizing. My cousin's wife smacked his arm playfully. Can't you talk properly? Can't you talk properly? I know. My bad, he said, scratching his head sheepishly. After lunch, when we were about to leave, they enthusiastically invited us. Belle, we booked a KTV room this afternoon with some friends. Come sing with us! Though I got along well with my cousin and his wife, I didn't know their friends. And awkwardness wasn't my thing. No thanks. I already made plans to go shopping with my best friend. I declined politely. Then bring your friend too. That's not really appropriate. Mom cut in right on cue. Why not? Julia's still single, isn't she? The word single rang alarm bells in my head. I wanted to run, but they'd already herded me into the car. Half an hour later, we arrived at the KTV. As soon as we entered, my cousin announced proudly, "This is my cousin Belle, pretty." Right? Pretty, everyone chimed in. Then he turned to the best-looking man in the room. Kyle, I'm leaving my cousin in your care today. I looked at him carefully. Wasn't this the guy in the photo Mum showed me? The one she'd wanted to set me up with? Sure enough, it was a trap. Nice to meet you, I said politely, then leaned close to whisper to my cousin. I already have a boyfriend. We're even talking about marriage. My cousin burst out laughing. Haha, Belle, don't try to fool me. Auntie told me you don't even have a boyfriend. You'll say anything to dodge a blind date. He patted Kyle's shoulder. Kyle's my bro. You're in good hands. Then he shoved me toward him. I had no choice but to sit beside Kyle awkwardly. Luckily, Julia arrived soon after. I waved her over to sit between us. Being her usual outgoing self, she fit right in. In no time, Julia was chatting with everyone. Just when I thought I was safe from Kyle, my cousin stirred things up again by cueing a love song. Kyle, Belle, this one's perfect for you two. What could I do but shoot Julia a desperate look? She didn't let me down. I'll sing it, she declared, jumping up. After the KTV session, we went out for dinner. Then everyone headed to a bar. Things got livelier and wilder, especially with my cousin and his wife scheming to pair me and Kyle. Kyle, Belle, go dance! Don't just sit there, he said, shoving us both toward the dance floor. I figured if I didn't clear things up, it'd cause misunderstandings. I decided to lay it out straight. The music was deafening. So I yelled, I need to tell you something. Perfect. I have something to say too, Kyle shouted back. You first. Well, he suddenly looked shy. Oh no, was he about to confess? Just as I was preparing to bolt, he blurted, Sorry, Belle, but I think I like your friend Julia. Huh? I froze, then broke into a grin. He liked Julia? Perfect. I was still grinning when my phone buzzed. It was a message from Jason. I opened it immediately. What are you doing? What a random question. I frowned and replied smoothly. About to sleep. Why? I didn't want to lie, but I couldn't exactly tell him I was clubbing. His reply came fast. Sleeping at a bar? What? My stomach dropped. I looked around and sure enough, I caught a glimpse of Jason's silhouette disappearing through the bar's exit. Oh no. Wasn't he supposed to be on a week-long business trip? How was he back in 3 days? Without thinking, I sprinted after him. He was just getting into a car when I dove inside right before it moved. Jason, what's the rush? I pouted. His lips pressed into a thin line. He said nothing, just told the driver my address. The air in the car was heavy. I tentatively hooked my pinky around his. When he didn't pull away, I took it further, interlaced our fingers. Leaning against him like last time, I asked softly, Didn't you say you'd be gone a week? Why are you back today? You sent me a message saying... He trailed off, as if embarrassed to continue. that you missed me. So he'd seen the message I unsent and came back just because of that. Warmth bloomed in my chest, mixed with guilt. After all, I'd told him I was going to sleep while I was actually out dancing. Yeah, if I were him, I'd be mad too. My voice went soft, my body pressing against his. Are you mad at me? The coldness in his expression eased a little, but he still didn't answer. With the driver up front, I didn't dare do more. When we pulled up to my building, he stayed seated. I tugged his hand and pulled him out of the car. Then I wrapped my arms around him. I want to cuddle. I rubbed my cheek against him like before, but before I could touch him, he pried my hands off. Go to bed early, he said flatly, and got back in the car. That did it. I was pissed. I'd been so gentle and sweet, and he was still mad? No cuddles? Unbelievable. The next day, at a cafe, I sat with Julia and Kristen, all three of us sighing over desserts and milk tea, lamenting love's misery. Kyle won't stop chasing me, it's exhausting. And Juan used to be so nice, now he suddenly hates me. And Jason, he's being so dramatic. So what if I went clubbing? We sighed in unison. Kristen looked at me guiltily. Sorry, sis-in-law. It's my fault. I told my brother where you were. Ever since Julia drove her home that night, those two had become besties. The three of us even had a group chat now, sharing everything fun. That night, out with Julia had basically been live-streamed. It's fine. It's not your fault, I said, ruffling her hair. But sis-in-law, don't you see? The angrier my brother gets, the more it means he cares about you. Think about it. If you saw my brother dancing with some woman in a club, wouldn't you be mad? Mad. I'd break his legs. Just picturing it made my fists clench. Exactly. So, doesn't that make his anger understandable? I guess so. Kristen's words made perfect sense, and I found myself nodding. So, what you're saying is, your brother probably likes me? Not probably. Definitely, she said firmly. Her conviction melted the last of my anger, replacing it with giddy joy. Still, I wasn't completely sure. But we've only known each other for, what, a little over a week? Isn't that too fast? Ever heard of love at first sight? I know my brother better than anyone. He's never let any woman get close. You're the first. And that day at the wedding, when you said, if she won't marry you, I will? Knowing his rational, composed nature, he could have ended the ceremony gracefully without you, but he chose you instead. That's love at first sight. Really? Really? That sealed it. I was over the moon. That night, I came home grinning from ear to ear. Mom noticed and came nosing around. Well, did you fall in love? My heart skipped. I hadn't told her about Jason. How did she know? I was just about to explain when her next words stopped me cold. Is it Kyle? I knew it. That boy's perfect, handsome. Owns a house and a car. No debt. Not many like him these days. When you two get married. Stop, stop, stop! I cut her off before she got carried away. Mom, Kyle's not into me. He likes Julia. What? She froze, then erupted. You little fool! I ought to kill you. You had a man handed to you, and you let him slip away. You're gonna be the death of me! She shouted, chasing me around the house with murder in her eyes. I darted into my room and locked the door. The next morning, she was still sulking. To make peace, I told her, Mom, don't worry, I'm getting married soon. You? She gave me a look full of doubt. Yeah, right. I'm serious this time. No matter what I said, she didn't believe me. Ding dong! The doorbell rang. Who is it? Mom asked, heading for the door. Hello, ma'am. I'm Belle's friend. The voice was low and magnetic. I recognized it instantly, Jason. But why was he here? Wasn't he still mad? When Mom opened the door and saw him, her eyes went wide. It took her a while to recover. You said you're Belle's friend? Yes. Jason glanced at me, then turned to Mom and said solemnly, I'm Belle's boyfriend. Boyfriend, Mum stammered, tongue tied with excitement. Please come in, come in. She beamed, fussing over him like he was already family. Then she shot me a look. What are you sitting there for? Go pour him some water. Okay, I muttered, twitching my lips as I poured Jason a glass. He placed the gift boxes he'd brought on the coffee table cordyceps and bird's nest. Mum's eyes practically sparkled. You said you're Belle's boyfriend? Yes, ma'am. How did you two meet? She pressed. Jason answered honestly. Half an hour later, Mom had learned everything about his family tree. By then, she couldn't have been more satisfied. So when Jason mentioned wanting to marry me, she immediately grabbed my household register and ID, thrusting them at me. Go! Get your marriage license right now! Then she shoved us both out the door. Bang! The door slammed behind us. Still wearing my slippers, holding my ID and register, I stood there in a daze. Jason looked at me and chuckled the first time I'd ever seen him smile. Like snow melting in early spring. That smile was breathtaking. Let's go home, he said, taking my hand and leading me outside. Today he didn't bring a driver. He drove himself. Sitting in the passenger seat, I turned toward him. Why did you suddenly show up? You're not mad at me anymore? He looked over, and his scorching, possessive kiss hit me before I could finish. When the kiss ended, I was already soft and limp against him. His fingers slid through my hair, his lips brushing my forehead. It's not that I was angry. His voice was hoarse, thick with restrained desire. Then what was it? I was jealous. Jealous? My heart skipped a beat. I lifted my head from his chest. So you like me? His face stayed calm and composed, but the tips of his ears were bright red. Maybe it was the tension or something else, but the car suddenly felt stiflingly hot. I couldn't take it anymore. Then why don't we do what my mom said, go get our marriage certificate right now? Are you sure? Yeah. After I nodded, Jason drove straight to the Civil Affairs Bureau. 20 minutes later, we walked out, 2 little red marriage booklets in hand. Just like that, I'd married Jason on impulse. It was crazy, but more than anything, it felt full of promise. Afterward, Jason took me home, not to his family's old mansion, but to the spacious apartment he lived in alone. Once inside, I wasted no time clinging to him, my arms wrapped around his firm waist, hoping he'd make a move. I'd been craving him for over a week, but he stayed maddeningly still, driving me insane. So we're legal now, I hinted blatantly. And? His cool voice made me want to scream. Wasn't he supposed to be the man here? Why did I have to be the bold one? Just then, my mom called. Belle, I was just thinking Jason's such a good man, but his bride ran away. I don't mean anything by it, but could he maybe have, a problem down there? I hung up in 1 second flat. We were sitting so close he definitely heard that. I wanted to die. No, be buried. Sure enough, when I looked up, Jason's dark eyes were fixed on me. His long fingers framed my face, his lips curving slightly. Then why don't we find out? My heart leapt. Fine, let's find out. The result of that impulsive decision was that I couldn't get out of bed the next day. Jason had proven quite thoroughly that he was perfectly capable, extremely capable. When I told my mom, she finally let out a sigh of relief. That weekend, when I went home, I found her in the courtyard bragging to the neighbors, glowing with pride. She was going on and on about how amazing my man was. Everyone chimed in with blessings, except Aunt Emily, Mum's eternal rival. Oh, sure. Talk all you want. Why don't you actually bring him over for us to see? Just then, Mum spotted me entering the courtyard. Belle, where's Jason? He's coming tomorrow, I replied. The next day, 5 luxury cars rolled into the complex, filling the lot. From them, attendants unloaded mountains of expensive gifts. The neighbors gawked. My God, look at all that cash, must be tens of thousands. And those gifts! Jason's parents stepped out of one car and approached my mum. We're here to formally ask for Belle's hand. Wonderful! Please come in! Mom ushered them upstairs while Jason had the gifts carried into our home, and even sent people to hand out presents to every neighbor. 2 packs of cigarettes and 2 bottles of wine each. Generous didn't even begin to cover it. Yet his words were humble. Thank you all for looking after Belle. This is just a small token of appreciation. Please accept it. The neighbors grinned ear to ear, including Aunt Emily, who instantly changed tune and couldn't stop praising us. The parents on both sides quickly settled the wedding details. Jason had technically already held one ceremony, and I thought there was no need for another, but he insisted on throwing me a grander one. He told everyone they only needed to attend and enjoy the feast, no gifts required. Another weekend came, and Jason and I went to the Smith family estate to dine with his parents. Suddenly, a commotion broke out outside the villa. When we went to check, we found Jason's ex-fiancée Jessica standing there. She looked thin and haggard now, a far cry from the dazzling bride she'd been. The moment she saw me, she stormed forward. "You bitch! You stole my husband! I'll tear your face apart!" She lunged, nails outstretched. Jason stepped in front of me, catching her wrist mid-air and flinging it away. She stumbled and fell. "Miss Jessica, if I recall correctly, it was you who humiliated my family by backing out of the wedding in public. And now, instead of reflecting on your actions, you're trying to hurt my fiancé. Have we Smiths been too easy to bully? If that's the case, then let's settle all debts, old and new today." His tone was icy, his presence overwhelming, yet his grip on my hand was firm, protective like a knight, shielding what was most precious to him. Fear flickered in Jessica's eyes, but she stubbornly bit out. "I only broke off the engagement because you were always so cold to me. I never felt loved." "Huh." Jason let out a sharp laugh. "Right. You spent the day smiling for wedding photos and talking about building a future together, then went on a date with that man the same night? You knew?" Jessica's face turned ghost white. Still, she refused to back down. "Jason, did you ever love me?" "No," he said flatly. "We only met a handful of times. How could I?" "And her?" Jessica pointed at me. "You two barely know each other too. Love at first sight doesn't need explanation." Jessica tried to argue, but Jason had lost patience. "Get her out of here. Far away." Just as he said it, her parents arrived. The families had known each other for years, so Jason relented slightly, signaling his guards to stand down. Jessica's parents hurried to drag her into their car. "I'm not leaving! Jason's my husband! I'm marrying him!" she screamed hysterically. Her voice faded as the car doors slammed shut and drove off. Her parents apologized profusely, explaining everything. Apparently, Jessica had been scammed by a man she thought was an ultra-rich tycoon. Every bit of his identity was fake. If her parents hadn't sent people to follow her, she might never have made it back. The betrayal had shattered her. Her mental state had cracked. Hearing it all, I couldn't help feeling a pang of sympathy. Jason and I handled every wedding detail ourselves, while our parents stayed busy too. His family kept sending expensive tonics, bird's nest, ginseng, all subtle hints for us to have a baby soon. My mum was far less subtle. She called me every day, practically shouting over the phone, demanding a chubby grandson. When I hung up, exasperated, Jason came up behind me, wrapping an arm around my waist. "Belle, maybe we should listen to them." "You mean have a baby?" "Exactly." With that, he lifted me into his arms and carried me into the bedroom. That night, I dreamed of nothing at all.